Welcome to my presentation. I'll be comparing the three main macroeconomic indicators such as GDP growth, inflation, and employment in June 2020 to a point in time prior to the pandemic and bushfires. Below you will see a chart showing GDP growth, inflation, and the unemployment rate. This will gather from the Reserve Bank of Australia by using the comparison tool to compare two economical periods in the Australian economy. The GDP growth from June 2019 was 1.9 and increased in June 2020 by negative 6.3, which shows negative growth because of COVID-19. People don't want to spend as much on goods and services, so they can save money because of the economic uncertainty. Since there was no aggregate demand for the goods and services, their aggregate supply went down because of the reduction in production. So there was a loss of profit. Therefore, because of the output had decreased, there was a decrease in GDP. The reason why GDP dropped was because the Australian government economic reaction to the COVID-19 pandemic was to give out subsidy payments, which added up to $5.5 billion. Also, this caused a decline in tax received from taxpayers. The inflation from June 2019 was 1.7 and decreased in June 2020 by negative 0.3. This shows the inflation, which means the level of the general price decreased at the given time. Because of all the compulsory pandemic lockdowns restrictions during June, it caused deflation. The unemployment rate from June 2019 was 5.2 and increased in June 2020 by 7.4. Since the firms are decreasing their production, the amount of workers are being decreased too because of the lack of aggregate demand for goods and services. The current economy is experiencing a contraction which is backed up by the business cycle. Below you see a handwritten drawing of the ADNAS model, which includes the long run aggregate supply, short run aggregate supply, aggregate demand, to name some examples. In the long run, macroeconomic equilibrium is where the aggregate demand and the short run aggregate supply cross each other. Companies will operate at their potential level of capacity, so everybody who wants a job will get a job, except for fractional and structural unemployment. The assumption will be that the economy experiences no inflation, which means the price level should stay the same. If the company doesn't experience long run growth, then the potential GDP will remain the same. The long run aggregate supply represents full employment in the long run. Also, it shows maximum capacity. The short run aggregate supply has gone down because of the COVID-19 and bushfires. There is a low aggregate demand because people have lost their jobs. The customer demand has fallen, causing the aggregate demand to fall as well. The real GDP and price has decreased too. For example, the price level 1 went to price level 2, which is shown in the diagram above. As firms adjust to the price being decreased, they will need to reduce their labor force because firms need to keep costs down, so the short run aggregate supply shifts to the left. A decline in investments causing the demand aggregate to the left, causing a recession in the economy. Because the aggregate demand has shifted to the left, meaning that the equilibrium quantity of output and the price level will fall because of the aggregate demand. So therefore, the economy is entering recession. The aggregate demand and aggregate supply model is a model that shows the total supply or total demand for the economy, and they interact at the macroeconomic level. There is cyclical unemployment shown in the diagram. New equilibrium is at point B and original equilibrium is at point A.